Hi, I'm Tom and welcome back to my Sweden, where this time we celebrated Christmas with some friends, but mainly ourselves and our dogs. We celebrated New Year's with some traditional Dutch oliebollen, homemade of course. And immediately in the new year we got quite a lot of snow. So that meant getting the quad and the snowblower out. So it has been quite a day so far. There's a blizzard, snowstorm with weather warnings. It doesn't look too bad, but it's quite a bit of snow and sometimes some wind. And then this morning when I was taking care of the snowblower broke. A few of the shear bolts from the drive shaft to the propeller thingy sheared off, as they are meant to, because there was a big rock that is one of the downsides of having a good new driveway, that there's still some loose rocks. So there was a big rock that got stuck in the propeller, or at least it bent one of the propeller arms, and that got stuck, so then the bolts sheared off. So that's what I've been fixing now, and then also the power went out and I couldn't get that back on myself. I tried a few things, but in the end I called an electrician, and it was apparently one of those old ceramic fuses that looked to be intact, but it wasn't anymore. And then afterwards it blew again, so I think it was the heating in the bathroom that I set to a slightly higher level that just can't handle. But I immediately asked for them to make a quote to change our meter cupboard, I think is what it's called. So where all the fuses are, because that's all ceramic, and I would just want to change it to a slightly more modern one. But now I plowed the driveway and I used the snow slung on it, and now, yeah, it's probably time to do it again, because I think another 5 to 10 centimeters has fallen in the meantime. But I'll have to finish the snowblower first. It took some time because it's the first time working on it to see how it all came apart and back again. So, but I think I replaced it now. So we'll see. I'll put it back together and then see if it works again. Use the snowblower for this little path to the barn that we need to get firewood. So yeah, it's nice living here kind of in the middle of nowhere on your own, but it also means you need to be able to take care of stuff like that, and it's not my strong suit, but it's getting better and better. So I'll get back to it. So we bought an extra car. Been casually looking online for a few months. We of course have the Volkswagen there, pickup, four-wheel drive diesel that does well in on these country roads, but with extreme cold, a diesel isn't the best. You need to preheat it. That asks a lot of the battery, and then it does start, but it needs to warm up quite a bit. But it's great for hauling lots of stuff. But we wanted a smaller car, and I was actually looking for a smaller, like SUV or whatever. But they are either quite expensive or they just weren't there. So instead we bought a four-wheel drive Suzuki Swift. So it's four-wheel drive. It has spiked winter tires, but it is a bit lower than, for instance, the Amarok. But that just means if the road isn't plowed or not plowed well, we have to take the Amarok. The reason we wanted to buy a second car is not because we need a second car because we go places separately so often. It's mainly because we're so dependent on a car that it felt a lot better to have a backup. So if one isn't working or is in the shop, we still have another car to, I don't know, do our groceries, go places basically, because we can't really walk or cycle somewhere like we did in the Netherlands. So really do need a car. So it was worth spending the money on an extra. It's yeah, so that's a petrol or gasoline car, with, yeah, it's from 2012, so it's not the newest. The Volkswagen is from 2014, so it's also not the newest, but it has everything you need. It even has a you can attach a cable to preheat the engine and the inside of the car. So I'm going to do some online shopping for some accessories like phone holders and that cable. But yeah, that's can't really do a lot of renovation projects, so that just means, I guess, I looked online a bit more and we ended up buying some things. So this is one, and another one is a firewood splitter. So I'll show that now. So the fully assembled splitter is over there, and the barn, I kind of need to clear some of the snow from the roof before it falls on me. But took it out of the car. It was very heavy, so I did break one of the cables that holds the tailgate up. So that's also something extra I can order while I'm shopping for accessories for the smaller car. But yeah, it's an 8-ton wood press. So I think it was only a few months ago where I talked in a video about not wanting or not needing a wood splitter. But I think back then I misjudged the amount of wood we would need. We don't use as much wood as some other people. But the first winter we were here, I think there was much more firewood already present and prepared than I initially thought. So the previous winter it was fine just chopping all the firewood we needed by hand. It was like an hour here and there just as a hobby. But now yeah, it's just been quite a bit of work, and instead of, you know, when I feel like chopping some firewood, I've had quite a few instances where I felt like I had to, and then it's not as enjoyable. So my idea is now just to split quite a lot of wood. It might not be dry enough yet, but we'll see. Split quite some wood, have it ready, and then in the coming spring also just cut down some trees, chop them in bits and split them immediately. And I've allocated the space in the barn that I think if I have that filled with firewood, that would get us through the winter. And then it's also easier to measure like, okay, that was enough, or that wasn't enough, so I need to allocate a slightly bigger space, and then I know each winter, as long as that space is full, then we should have enough for the winter. Now it was a bit, yeah, the first winter firewood was in all kinds of places. It was in the barn, it was here in this this little house building over there, it was in that little door there was some firewood, so it was just a bit more difficult for me to estimate how much it was, and I totally misjudged it. So the amount of firewood we needed, and therefore the amount of work I needed to put in by hand. So I'm going to assemble the splitter, give it a try, and then maybe tomorrow or one of these days I'll spend quite some time splitting some wood. I have some pieces. Let's see. Let's quickly duck under the snow. So there's some already chopped up logs here that I can then split, and if I'm done with that, I'll add a few more. I maybe saw a few more logs, but we'll see how far we'll get with that, because as of now there's not a whole lot of firewood left, and this here behind me is already a little pile of the slightly wetter wood from here. So this I sawed, I think, just maybe 2 months ago, from the logs that were drying outside. So it had been drying outside for over a year, so that should be kind of dry, but not as dry as the wood that had been laying in here drying for another year. So we'll see how that goes. It went okay splitting it by hand, so I think it might be dry enough, but we'll see once we start using that in the stove. Unfortunately, it wasn't as easy as just finishing the assembly on the wood splitter. When I assembled it and tried it, it didn't work. The whatever this is, the beam, the splitter axe wouldn't go up. So I read the manual and blah blah blah. There wasn't enough oil in there, and I didn't get any oil with the purchase of this thing. So I ordered some hydraulic oil online, because that's not something I can buy within a, let's say, 10-15 kilometer radius, and I didn't feel like trying my luck further and then for nothing. So it took a few days. I got the oil. It's very unfortunate that the oil filler cap takes probably about 20-25 turns to open and then close, and then to measure the oil level, the dipstick is also on there. You need to close it entirely, open it, see, and the splitter needs to be all the way to the top to measure the correct amount of oil. But if there's not enough oil in there, the engine, the pump, isn't going to push the splitter all the way to the top. So you just have to fill a little bit, turn on the engine so that the splitter goes a bit higher, put a little log in between, fill it a little bit more. So I think I filled it 4-5 times. Once I filled it too much, so then the oil came spurting out again. But now it seems to be working. And it's a closed system, so hopefully this is I need to change the oil after I've used it for 50 hours, so probably after 1 or 2 years I'll have to change the oil, but after that it doesn't need an oil change for another 500 hours, so I'll be done with that hopefully. So unless you're willing to put in that amount of effort and think you're going to be splitting very big logs, I wouldn't suggest buying one of these. The reason I bought it is because the one I wanted was sold out and I didn't feel like waiting a long time to order it. I ended up waiting a few days for the oil that I ordered, but hey, there you go. Well, I'll give it a few tries and show you how it works. Yeah, there's also this little inconvenient bit that it's very tall. I think it's about, I don't know, probably 56 or 60 centimeters. And the logs that I'm splitting are like 35, 40. So, and it doesn't go down very quickly. It does have a way where you can stop it halfway, but you do need to stay with the machine for that. So I'm just going to try to load up these side plates with quite a few logs so I can get through them quickly. It's just trying to find a method with this new machine, but it should be quicker and easier than by hand anyway. A few days later I used the machine again and I found out two things. One, there is a way to set the machine to a lower height so that it didn't always have to go back to the maximum height, so that's a lot more convenient. And two, that the wood that I'm splitting here, that is lying there to dry, is a lot wetter than I thought, so it's probably not suitable for the fire this year. That is unfortunate, but it's all part of learning how to manage our life here in the countryside, and it will just mean that our electricity bill will be a bit higher, and this year in the spring I will make sure that we have enough wood drying so that we have plenty for the year. I mean, I think it will take some getting used to, getting to know the machine, but yeah, has no issues going through the wood, even though this is still quite wet. It's not the most comfortable working position, but that might be solved by these clamps. As I said, just some getting used to, and I'm glad that it's working, and it seems to be quite effective. So that's it for now. So another exciting thing that happened, it was just before Christmas, actually a few days before Christmas, is that I shot my first deer, and I don't have a lot of footage from that, so I just thought I'd talk about that a bit. I do have a few images. It was two actually. So I went out for a hunt together with Natalie and the dogs, totally expecting to get nothing like the few times before, just to have a nice walk. It was not as snowy as this. There was a bit of snow on the ground. So got everything, the rifle, the dogs, all the equipment, and then we got out and Natalie said, hey, there's deer in the garden. And yeah, there were 3 roe deer in the garden, and they went from the field in front of our house. They ran into the clear cut behind me and was there by that little group of trees that one of them stopped, looked back, and it was there when I was able to take the shot, and it was a clean shot, killed it immediately. And very shortly after we found another deer, and that was also I also hit it, but it wasn't as clean a shot, so it took about 15 minutes with the dogs to find it very close to where it was shot. So very glad that both of them didn't suffer as much. It was quite stressful, especially that second deer with a bit of searching. I didn't want it to get away, but it was hit well enough that it couldn't go very far anymore. So that was the first deer I shot, and also the first animal at all. So before I wasn't really very sure what I would think about it, and now I know. And a clean shot like that first deer, no trouble at all, and a less clean shot, must say, had some issues with it. So that just means and confirms that I only want to take shots where I have a good opportunity, and I did have a good opportunity. It was just, I don't know, slight bad luck that I hit it slightly more to the back and slightly lower. But anyway, that was quite exciting for the four of us. Two people and the two dogs were very excited as well. That also meant quite a bit of work, because I hadn't really planned on shooting 2 deer in short succession, but the opportunity presented itself. But that also meant slaughtering and butchering 2 deer. So it took us almost all of the daylight. I'm not going to say the full day, but all of the daylight to shoot and slaughter and hang the 2 deers. And then a week later, we actually had some luck in that respect. It was above freezing, so we could hang the deer for a week before it started freezing again. So we took them, we butchered them before it started freezing, and took them, like the bigger parts we took inside for more butchering, and the rest we butchered in the barn. So it gave us about 15, maybe a bit more kilos of meat. So the freezer is nicely filled now with moose and raw meat. It's not, the taste of the raw meat is a bit of an acquired taste, I think. I prefer the moose, but we just need to learn to cook with the raw meat a bit better. But happy to report, and I know not everyone is pro hunt, but it's just a big part of life here, and I didn't want to skip on that. And I think if you eat meat, the best meat you can eat is the stuff you shoot yourself, because they've had a full life here in the forest, and then they just have, in the case of that first deer, no suffering at all. In the case of the last deer, 15 minutes of stress before they die, instead of a full life of stress. So I'll show you our filled freezer full of meat. So still plenty of space for other meat, but for now I think we'll eat quite well from that.